Sungil was already in the locker room, seated with his elbow resting on his knees, a towel beside him. Jiho closed his locker without drawing attention, adjusting his sleeve once as he turned, while Ray stepped in last, dropping his bag and pulling his shirt off in one motion, the fabric barely catching before it disappeared from his hands. Jiho's gaze passed over him, then slowed, catching near the collarbone. Is that a hickey? You scored last night? Ray didn't look down. Yeah, something like that. This is where nights don't end. Chapter 3. The night continues. The hallway outside the bathroom narrowed just enough to hold the sound differently, the music from the main floor pressing in without ever fully arriving, like it had to pass through something before it reached this part of the space. Ray stood just off the side of the door, not blocking it, not waiting in a way that would be noticed, but not moving either, as people passed through without stopping. One brushing his shoulder on the way in, another pushing past on the way out. Ray stayed where he was. When the door opened, and Lucas stepped out with one hand still near the handle, letting it fall shut behind him as his gaze lifted, and landed immediately on Ray. They both stopped, not far enough apart to need to close the space, but not close enough to call it anything yet. The distance holding between them in a way that felt already decided. The noise from the main room pulsed once into the hallway, and fell back again. Lucas didn't look away. Ray didn't either. Time didn't stretch so much as settle, the moment holding just long enough to register before it moved. Ray shifted first, just enough to remove what little space was left between them. Lucas didn't step back. For a second, nothing followed. Then Lucas reached out, his hand finding Ray's side without hesitation. The kiss landed directly. Ray met it as it was, his hand lifting briefly, catching at Lucas' wrist before settling there. Lucas held him closer. When Lucas pulled back, he did it cleanly, just enough to break contact without leaving anything unfinished. For a second, they remained where they were. The distance reset but altered, like something had passed through it. When the door opened behind them again, the interruption was enough to move the movement forward, someone stepping out and forcing the space to adjust. Lucas stepped aside first. Ray moved the other direction. They passed back into the main room without looking at each other again, the sound swallowing them immediately, the hallway closing behind them, as if nothing had happened there at all. The table hadn't changed. Do-yoon was still there, seated along the sofa, with one arm resting near the bottle. His glass set was in easy reach. He looked up the moment Ray stepped back into the space, his attention settling without hesitation. Ray slid in beside him, close enough that their shoulders nearly touched, the back of the sofa holding them in the same line. Do-yoon registered it before his hand moved to the bottle. We still have this, he said, lifting it slightly before pouring into Ray's glass first. Ray followed the motion without interrupting it, lifting the glass once it was set down. Do-yoon poured for himself next. The space settled again, people leaning in and out without staying, a voice passing briefly over Do-yoon's shoulder before disappearing, a hand brushing past Ray as someone crossed behind him. Across from them, a chair shifted. Lucas stepped into the space and sat down opposite, pulling the chair in without asking, the movement simple enough that it didn't interrupt anything, and still managed to change the balance of it. Do-yoon's gaze lifted. You're back. Lucas gave a small nod. Yeah. Do-yoon's hand remained on the bottle. You drinking? Lucas glanced at it, then back. Sure. The pour came without hesitation, the same clean motion as before. Nothing added, nothing withheld. Lucas let the glass sit in front of him, his hand resting near the edge of the table rather than reaching for it. Ray didn't look up. But when he did, Lucas was already looking at him. Ray met it for a second, then let it go first, his attention dropping back to his glass as he turned it once against the table before lifting it again. Beside him, Do-yoon leaned back slightly, his arm settling along the top of the sofa behind Ray, his body aligning in just enough to reduce the space, without making it a point. To be honest, he said after a moment, his voice steady, directed at Ray. I wasn't planning on staying much longer. Ray looked at him. Do-yoon held it. We can head out. Somewhere quieter? Or just my place, Do-yoon said. The music passed in around them again. The bass carrying through the table, through the glass, through the space they were sitting in. Do-yoon leaned forward, topping off Ray's glass without asking. Let's finish this first, he said. Then we go. Lucas lifted his glass again, this time finishing it before setting it down, his gaze shifting once. Ray, then Do-yoon, as if the space no longer required him to hold it. Do-yoon stood already moving. I'll close out. Ray stayed where he was. Lucas didn't look at him. He pushed his chair back and moved toward the bar, folding into the crowd without drawing attention, disappearing into the same way he had entered. Do-yoon returned, receipt in hand. All set. Ray stood. Do-yoon stepped in beside him, his hand brushing lightly at Ray's back as they turned toward the exit. By the time the bartender glanced up, Lucas had already lifted his hand slightly, signaling. One more whiskey. He finished the drink where he stood. The glass sat back down with the same quiet control, his attention drifting just enough to register someone stepping into his space. Heading out? The man asked. Lucas looked at him, held it for a second, then gave a small smile. Yeah, that was enough. They moved together without needing anything else to confirm it. Outside, the air felt less contained, the sound of music spilling out behind as the door closed. The street carrying its own rhythm now, cars passing, voices overlapping, the night continuing without needing the room to hold it. Do-yoon didn't slow until they reached the curb, lifting a hand as if the next step had already been decided. A car pulling in. He opened the door. Ray stepped in, the space closing around them as the taxi moved off again. The city sliding past in fragments of light that reflected briefly along the window. Do-yoon leaned back into the seat, his arm wrestling along the edge, angled just enough toward Ray to keep the space between them from opening too far. Elsewhere, Jiho stepped out into a hallway that felt quieter than it should have been. The key card already in his hand, Jiho stepped in with a man beside him. Sungil's door shut with a different kind of finality. He reached for Daniel almost immediately, his hand catching at his shirt, pulling him closer. Daniel followed easily, his body giving without resistance, meeting him without hesitation. The night spread outward from there, each of them stepping into a different version of it. The movement continuous, uninterrupted, one choice leading directly into the next. Nothing needed to be decided anymore, and once they moved into it, none of them looked back. The bathroom light cut a clean line into the room, steam still hanging in the air as Jiho stepped out with a towel low around his waist. On the bed, the guy had already fallen asleep, face turned into the pillow, one arm stretched across the empty space Jiho had left. Jiho looked at him, before turning away and moving through the room, reaching for his clothes where they had been dropped. At the door, he paused just long enough to listen, then opened it and stepped out. By morning, the light had already filled the space, curtains half open. Lucas lay on his back, one arm folded beneath his head, the other resting loosely across his chest, his gaze unfocused, as the man moved around the room, pulling his shirt on, bending once to pick his phone up from the floor. The man nodded, like that was enough, and leaned slightly back toward the bed. Lucas turned his head, just not toward him. The door opened and closed. Lucas remained where he was. The light here was softer, filtered through curtains, the room still carrying the warmth of the night. Daniel lay close, one arm draped across Sungil's waist, his breathing deep and even. Sungil lay awake beneath it, his eyes open. After a moment, his hand adjusted slightly under Daniel's arm. He looked down once, taking in the details he hadn't noticed the night before. The relaxed line of his mouth, the absence of tension anywhere in his body, the ease of it all. He exhaled quietly through his nose, careful not to disturb the air between them. Ray woke to the movement rather than sound. The shift in the room subtle but enough to pull him back. Do-yoon was in the kitchen, moving easily through the space as he pulled something from the fridge and set it down, reaching for a pan. "You eat breakfast?" he asked, glancing over his shoulder. Ray pushed himself up, leaning back against the headboard. Do-yoon's mouth curved faintly. "I'll make something quick." Ray watched him for a second. Then he moved. Do-yoon didn't turn. Not until Ray was already there. His hand came up automatically, settling at Ray's side, then around him, drawing him in just enough to keep him there without interrupting what he was doing. The boardroom was already half lit when Jiho stepped in, the main screen holding on a pause slide, with the title centered. Jiho's attention already on the screen. "Can we run it once?" The technician nodded, and the slide shifted forward, the sequence moving cleanly as Jiho watched, following the timing, the spacing. "Can you pause there?" The slide held, and he stepped a little closer. "Maybe lose the second line," he added. "It's a bit heavy." The technician glanced at it, then nodded. "I see what you mean." Jiho stepped back, shifting toward the podium where the mic rested on its stand. He picked it up, tapped it once, and listened as the sound came back through the speakers. "Sounds a bit high," he said. The technician adjusted it from the back, the change settling almost immediately. He spoke again, just enough to check. "Much better." His phone buzzed. "Sauna." Jiho's attention returned to the slide. "Is video ready?" "Of course. Can I see it?" The image settled. His phone buzzed again. He picked it up this time. "What time?" "After work." 7? Jiho read it, his gaze lifting back to the screen for a moment before dropping again as another message came through. "Itaewon." Jiho held the phone in his hand. Then he typed, "What's the emergency?" He didn't wait for the reply, locking the screen and setting the phone down beside him, as if the question itself was enough for now. "Let's run it from the top again." The screen reset, the first slide coming back in, everything landing exactly where it was supposed to. His phone buzzed again, then once more. But Jiho didn't reach for it this time, his attention fixed on the sequence as it played through. The locker room held its usual warmth. Sungil was already there, seated with his elbow resting on his knees, a towel beside him. Jiho closed his locker, adjusting his sleeve once as he turned, while Ray stepped in last, dropping his bag and pulling his shirt off in one motion. Jiho's gaze passed over him, then slowed, catching near the collarbone. "Is that a hickey? You scored last night?" Ray didn't look down. "Something like that." Jiho's mouth shifted. Sungil didn't ask. He was already standing. "Come," he said, pushing off his knees. They followed. The main floor carried more noise, the television drawing a loose crowd, vending machines humming along the wall. But Sungil didn't slow there, pushing the door open into the heated room. He moved toward the center and dropped down, crossing his legs as he reached for the towel, folding it with quick, practiced movements before setting it onto his head, adjusting it once so it held. Jiho sat to the one side, Ray to the other. Sungil reached for Jiho's towel next. "Come here." Jiho leaned in. "Sit properly." Jiho shifted forward, just enough. Sungil folded it the same way, pressing it into place, giving it a small adjustment. Then he moved to Ray last, taking the towel, folding and placing it onto his head. Jiho's attention loosening as his gaze slid toward the far side of the room. Ray settling into the heat without offering anything further. Sungil snapped his finger once. Jiho's gaze came back immediately, Ray followed a second after. Sungil leaned forward, elbows on his knees. So, was Daniel last night? It was just fine, he said, like he was testing the words rather than stating them. A small pause followed, his jaw shifting slightly. Then he shook his head. He exhaled once, sharper this time. It was bad, he said more openly now. He leaned back slightly, one hand coming up to rub at back of his neck. I was below him, he continued. It started there. Then halfway through it switched, and I ended up on top of him. He let out a short breath. The heat pressed upward from the floor, holding the space in place. He was into it, Sungil added, glancing between them. I like him, he said after a moment. Quieter now, but clear. That's the part I don't get. Jiho shifted, his attention turning to Ray. So you going to explain the hickey? Or we just pretending we didn't see it? Ray didn't react. Sungil let out a laugh, leaning back, the edge still there. Good for you, he said. See, I told you. You'll forget the Bali whatever. He waved it off lightly, like it didn't matter. Then leaned forward again, pulling the thread back toward himself. Anyway, he said quieter now. Am I doomed? Jiho didn't answer, his gaze flicking toward Ray. The signal passing. Ray caught it. He looked back at Sungil. You're overthinking it. Sungil held it for a second, then exhaled again. Ray's phone vibrated against the floor beside him. He glanced down and picked it up. The name on the screen was enough to register before he answered. Hey, Do-yoon spoke on the other line, Sungil's gaze flicking toward him once before drifting away. Jiho remained where he was. We just got here, Ray said, followed by a brief pause as he listened again. Tomorrow night. Another pause. That works. The conversation continued, and somewhere in the middle of it, Jiho turned his head slightly toward Sungil, catching his eyes with a small tilt that didn't need to be explained, the understanding passing cleanly between them as they rose almost at the same time. They stepped out of the room, leaving Ray where he was, still on the call. I can stop by, Ray went on. Your place is fine, he said after a beat. I'll text you. A short pause followed. See you tomorrow. He ended the call. Jiho and Sungil were already in the hot tub, shoulders submerged, the water barely moving until Ray stepped down and lowered himself in. Sungil's gaze dropped first, and stayed there without pretending otherwise. Wow, he said, shaking his head slightly. That's not fair. Jiho's mouth curved in response. That's what we're competing with, he added, neither of them breaking the moment as it landed. Ray leaned back into the water, letting it rise to his shoulders. Please don't start. Sungil leaned his head back, the laugh still there. Seriously, he went on, glancing toward Jiho as if to confirm the point rather than argue it. We're out here doing our best, and he's playing on easy mode. Jiho gave a small shrug. Well, that explains the hickey. You two done? Sungil's grin held. The earlier edge softened. Give us a minute, he said. We need to process. The water stilled once more, the steam folding it around them. They stayed there. And for now, that was enough. Some nights moved forward before anyone could stop them. Some choices felt decided the moment they were made. Jiho kept his distance, the way he always did, stepping in just enough to be part of it, never long enough to be held by it. Sungil tried to name what didn't fit, holding the moment in place until it showed him something back. Ray followed what felt right in the moment, even when it didn't point in one direction. Thank you for listening to Where Nights Don't End. Chapter 3. The night continues. Stay with us for the next chapter, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more stories on gay audiobooks. YouTube membership is now open, behind closed doors. Early access to upcoming stories, occasional behind the story exclusives. If you want to support me, please do join in. Thank you.
I knew the rhythm, knew the game. Different bodies, the night the same.